4, 3, 2, 1. We've had liftoff.
Understand this. Understand this.
Ladies and gentlemen, put your damn hands together. Get ready to have your earlobes massaged by the one and only
Finesse Mitchell.
Hey, it's a special day. It is a special day, my friend GENIE DEEZ.
What's up, brother?
You know what? We are back one more time on this podcast line. And I reached out. I pulled out my fishing rod, but I set the bait for a swordfish. I set the bait for something huge. You know what I'm saying?
Big catch.
A big catch. And I am happy to say that, you know what? Not only did I catch something or someone that I really admire and somebody that, you know, I'm sure this person has heard this a million times, but it is what it is. Sometimes you grow up to people and you realize, yeah, man, they help shape your perception of what comedy, entertainment, TV, fatherhood, all that stuff, you know? And this guy, when I say, let me roll some credits, Full House.
Fuller House.
America's Funniest Home Video.
All of that.
All that. He has his own podcast. The podcast is called Here For You. Ladies and gentlemen, Bob Saget is here for us. It's Bob Saget right now. The podcast is called Bob Saget's Here For You, man. What's up, my brother?
Oh, not much. That was the sweetest intro I've ever gotten. You caught a big fish. I am the biggest catch. I fulfilled my dream in being on that show. I am something you throw back. You catch it. It's so big, you're not going to eat it or stuff it. So you throw it back and let it continue its work.
Absolutely. You pull it, and once you see it coming out of the water, you say, oh, shit, that can't even fit on the boat.
And I don't even want to say what I would normally say if you say you pull it and then watch what's coming out. That immediately takes me to the place that got me in trouble all these years.
You know what? That's what I love about you. I swear to God, bro. That's what I love about you. And a lot of people don't know this. And a lot of people do know this. But, you know, one of the reasons you're one of my favorite people in stand-up comedy and just comedy in general is that then you see how great and how dope the actor is. Because the actor is nothing like the stand-up comedian. You know what I mean? Nothing like your act. So all that time I was watching you put up with John Stamos, underrated. I mean, just a super overrated dude. And
I love him so much.
And Dave Coulier, he ain't even French, Bob. That ain't even his real last name. You had to put up with these.
He took a W out of his name. It was Coulier, but he took out the W. I don't know what good that did. Once you got the Coulier, take out the W? I don't know. I kept Bob Saget. I was born. You don't pick that name.
You definitely picked that name. Nobody goes and says, I'm going to change my name to Bob Saget. I don't think people do that. So that
Finesse is your name, Finesse Mitchell?
My name is Alfred, but Finesse is definitely a word and name that you're going to switch Alfred to. The first time you go into a football locker room and everybody say, ain't you that motherfucker from Batman? No. So then you start switching. I can't keep calling myself Alfred because I'm getting killed in these football locker rooms. It must have been.
I hear you. My middle name is Lane, and Lane is a horrible middle name. It's like, I don't know what it is. It's like a street or a road.
It sounds like a sexy female name. You know what I mean?
Or yeah, it does. It does. Or a game show host, Bobby Lane. Here he is, Bobby Lane.
Yeah. Would you host a game show?
I have. I did that show, 1 versus 100, and it was a hit show on NBC. It was on right before Deal or No Deal, so it was in prime time.
How many years did that run?
We did it 2, and it still runs on the Game Show Network, and we only did 20 episodes, but it was a hit. But they took it off, Finesse, because at that time, they said all game shows are gone now. That time is over. So they took off Millionaire, Deal or No Deal, all primetime game shows. And then, of course, it all came back a year
Who makes
ago.
those decisions? Who makes those decisions where they're like, hey, we're moving on from this because da-da-da-da. And then all of a sudden, 5 years later, a new exec comes in and says, you know what we should do? We should do game shows. And then that person looks brilliant, like they came up with a new idea. You know what I mean?
Well,
Like,
it's very COVID friendly right now.
Yes,
and,
that's true.
And we just did kind of one recently together,
Mhm.
which is where I wanted to hug you really bad, but we can't touch each other. But
We did the elbow.
COVID friendly show that will be on Fox called I Can See Your Voice, starring Ken Jeong.
Mhm.
And we were panelists, and I loved that experience. That was, I don't know if I loved it because I was getting out of the house, or it's a good show too.
Yes, I think it's going to be a hit show. Ken definitely has a hit show on his hand. We are not going to spill the beans about. All we can say is we did our part and we were funny as shit and we tried our best. But
Right.
I think everybody had synergy and we were brilliant. And just your wit, man. Like, first of all, for the stand-up heads, just when was that decision for you where you're like, you know what? Did you okay, here's the question. Did you start out saying I want to be raw? I just want to just say whatever.
Well, to give you an example, I wasn't as blue until I did my first HBO special, which I buried because I didn't like it very much. So you can't find it. But it was during the time Full House and the video show were doing really well. They were in the top 10.
Uh-huh.
And half of it was me trying to get to my gig, and then the other half of it was stand-up.
Mhm.
And I did a couple funny things in it that I'm proud of, but the rest of it really didn't work. I didn't think. But I was at 17 years old in Philadelphia,
Mhm.
and I won a radio contest at WMMR at 17, singing a song about bondage.
Okay.
So, I mean, I don't know how far you have to drive off the road to know something's wrong with this guy.
Right. How did you
And
get?
so
but then what was the? But then for Full House, that was your full exposure to me, and especially, I guess, everybody in TV land. You probably had gigs before that. I don't know.
Well, I had some great gigs. I was a stand-up struggling. I was a host at the Comedy Store for 8 years. I hosted every room. I was in my biggest break. Probably the first one was Rodney Dangerfield's first young comedian special that had
Okay.
Sam Kinison on it.
I remember
My
that.
next big break was a Richard Pryor movie called Critical Condition, R-rated. I got to say fuck a lot.
Remember that.
And more importantly, I got to be with Richard and got to be friends with Richard. And I'd already known him from the Comedy Store, and he always liked me. I mean, we did one take 40 times because we couldn't look at each other. It was a serious take. It was a dead body on a gurney. And I couldn't look at the man because everything happened at one time. Holy crap, you're talking to Richard Pryor.
How old were you guys when you were
I
going
was
back and
20,
forth in the
I was
Comedy Store?
27.
How old was
And
Richard?
it was just after the fire. So it was like the first movie he did. I think JoJo Dancer came after it. I think it was the first one he did. And Michael Apted had a great directed it. It had a lot of great people in it.
Mhm.
And then I didn't work. I never thought I'd work again. And then I got a job on CBS on the morning program. And I got fired because I was saying
Fuck.
not blue stuff. I didn't curse. But like the host, Meredith Hartley, said, "Are you a type A personality?" And I said, "Yes, but I'm working on my anus." And I just meant A-ness,
Right.
but it came out as I'm working on my anus.
Right.
So she said, "Go to your room." And they kept me up at the top of the set for like 10 minutes till a commercial break. And I knew that it was over. And then the producers of Full House wanted me originally. And I was in LA shooting the other show at Disneyland. And I went and did a screen test just to make sure I worked with John and Dave. And it was an acting role. I studied acting for years,
Okay.
in addition to other stuff. And then the video show was a year later. And that started something that we see on our phones every second, which is the video clip of somebody falling down or setting themselves on fire. And this was a kinder, gentler time where it's mostly just people getting hit in the nuts. And that was 8 years of that. And then once Full House and that ended, I was dying to go out and do what I do, which I've been doing the whole time. I'd always done stand-up. It never stopped. and I directed for 4 movies, 1 feature, 3 television movies right then, and then did stand-up in between. And the stand-up just kind of in 2007, I came out with a special, That Ain't Right. And I said fuck so many times it could have been a drinking game.
Right.
And it was wrong. There was stuff in it that I regret I said now, because, if you go through it, you go, what? How can he say that? But it was a big time for me. I was in Entourage. I'd been in Half Baked. I was in a play in New York written by Paul Weitz. And so I was in Rolling Stone as a maverick.
And you earned it, bro. And
I guess so.
When you look back on it, Bob, you have to, and I try to tell a lot of younger comics, and I'm sure you will look at me as a younger comic actor, stand up, and then I look at
you as a peer. Actually, I don't feel that way. I mean, you're so funny and talented. I mean, the first time I saw you, I just went, "This guy's, we're family." I look at comedians as family. Dope. Except for a couple that we don't want to be associated to.
All right. Who's real quick? Who is your Mount Rushmore? You had mentioned Sam Kinison. You had mentioned Richard Pryor. If you walk the hallways, if people walk the hallways of the Comedy Store out here in LA, and you just see how young everybody is that's on those walls.
I'm on the wall, and at the time. I got Sam his first spot at the Comedy Store in front of Mitzi. So I loved him. I thought he was brilliant and a renegade, but he's not my Mount Rushmore because when I came to the Comedy Store, Letterman was my first host. And then the people going up, my first actual spot. And it wasn't a paid spot back then, because that's why the strike came after that. But my first host was Letterman. And then on the bill that night, it sounds insane, were people that are regulars of the store. It was Jeff Altman and Argus Hamilton, but the rest of the people are a little more well known now, although they're both known. But it was, it's insane. It's Michael Keaton, Billy Crystal. This is one night. Robin, and then Richard would go up at the end, and that's the first time I saw Richard live in 1978. And right away, Robin, I got off stage, I did a set, Robin came right over to me, and my act was so esoteric. It was like my mother's Gumby, my father's Pokey, and I'm Mr. Potato Head. It made no sense. It was just rhythms and absurdities. And Billy talked to me at the back of the room and told me I was good, sat with me. Billy Crystal. So, it's like those were the people. And Richard, to me, is Mount Rushmore. Right now, to be honest with you, my Mount Rushmore is where we're at right now. I mean, the originals were, of course, Lenny Bruce. I love Don Rickles, who I later in the past 15 years became very cute. He was like a dad to me. After I lost my dad, he became like my dad. I'm thinking of all the 8x10s I have signed in the other room. Rodney Dangerfield was, I became very close with. I officiated his funeral. But I guess Mount Rushmore right now, you could put, I would say Eddie Murphy. I got to intro Eddie before he did Raw. And then a week later, when he worked it out and crushed it beyond belief. So I would put Eddie in Mount Rushmore, Richard, and probably I'd put I'm not going to retrofit Trump in there. They're not going to make me do that.
I knew you was going to go there. I swear our minds are so similar, because I was like.
Unless you got the tennis photo, but, or the hair up in the air. But honestly, at this moment, it's Richard and Eddie and Dave Chappelle and Chris Rock and Bill Burr. That's where I fall right now.
I like that. I like that list.
That's who I look at, and they inspire me and make me. I've had a whole new. You probably had a whole new set ready to go before the pandemic. I did.
You know what? What I've been doing is I've just been writing jokes in my phone. Literally, I think it's funny. It made me laugh in the moment. I write it in my phone. I voice memo it sometimes in my phone, and then I'm thinking, if I actually have to go do a gig, then I have to go write a set. But here's where I feel stuck. Right before COVID, I loved the set I was doing, and I wanted to do something with it. And when I tell you, I can't even remember the opening joke or the middle or the end of that full hour that I used to do for the last 3 years because I'm ready to do it for a special, it pisses me off. So now it's like, do I tell those jokes or do I come back swinging out of COVID with people wanting to hear something COVID related or just more relevant? And because there's so much shit happening right now, that's where I kind of like, you know, my style is being a great storyteller and just making people laugh, you know, with just jokes and stories or whatever, or being, and then combining it with what's going on right now. And
I think the latter, because I think we're all in the same boat, because we are all in the same boat. And it's one of those ones that takes off from the Titanic. So,
right.
But I think I'm actually doing a set tonight. My first set, Tom Papa called me and said, okay, look, I've done it before. It's a studio in the Valley. There's only 15 people in the audience. They got masks on. We're going to film it for YouTube. You can have it for your YouTube page if you want. You're going to be 30 feet from anybody. You're not going to touch anybody. I'm not going to come near you. You have your own mic. We hand you in plastic.
Nice.
And if you want to do 10 minutes, and I went, you know what? I've been getting COVID tested. We did that TV show. I get it like every week. I get a test.
Yeah.
So I'm going to do it. And I know for a fact from having done this so many times that it'll all come to you. All you need to do is have those gigs, get on stage. And that's the beauty, is we're born this way.
Yeah.
So we get on stage and I know my first set might be my best because it'll have lulls. I don't care about the lulls. I haven't been up.
Right.
Doing a podcast helps us.
Absolutely.
It keeps us fresh. But I had an hour and 10 ready to go for a special too. And oddly, it was dealing with a lot of prejudice and stuff I experienced as a white Jew in Norfolk, Virginia, and the racism in that town and the segregation in that town. And that was, and will be, I think, part of my new whenever I do it. But then, of course, everything happened and the world caught on fire. So now we have to listen and heal, and that we get to do through our work.
Right.
And make fun of it all, which would be fun too. Make fun of it all in the positive way that unites people. Because if something's really funny, everybody can laugh at it. Everybody.
You know what I don't get, bro? I don't understand why, because we travel a lot. We've seen so much, and people who have probably not been anywhere, they're so critical of people in Hollywood being so conscious. And I think a lot of people in Hollywood are so conscious is because we are working with everybody, whether we're forced to, whether we're paid to, or whether we just want to. But I think our point of view is shaped based off of, GENIE, who we meet. And you can't be an asshole and a dick to everybody when you're working with people who are different from you every day of your career, from your makeup artist to your stylist to the wardrobe to your coworkers to the producer. So,
and I love that about it.
I love it. So when you go on Twitter and you read the responses of people just bashing Hollywood, I don't like it when everybody has like this big huge speech they got to say at an award show. I mean, you know, I'm cool on that shit. But at the same time, I'm also, if people would just, you're a cool guy, dude. Like there's no doubt about that. And so
back at you. That's why we're talking.
You know what I mean?
It just happened organically.
It happens organically, and it's not overthought. There are some people that
it's all feeling. Everything
feeling.
I'm doing now is over feeling.
Bob, when I tell you, bro, it's sometimes you're just like, sometimes I'm like, hey, good friend, one of my dope good friends, let's go on the podcast and talk about it. It goes from a yes to let me overthink the numbers. How many numbers does this person have compared to my numbers, social media wise? What are you overthinking? That's the part about Hollywood that I don't like, and the part that are people that are not in Hollywood that I don't like are judging the people in Hollywood. When sometimes
they got nothing else to do. That's all they do.
And sometimes I get upset because I'm like, damn. Sometimes they're right, because we do act that way. If it's self-serving and it benefits us in Hollywood to go on a podcast, to do to hang out, then we will. fake, real, whatever. We'll do it if it benefits us. And I think that's their criticism of you guys are so fake and so phony. So it's kind of like I see their side, but I definitely, you understand what I'm trying to say? Does this make sense?
I understand 100% because some people have platforms that they genuinely believe in and they have their mental health about them, and some don't, which is run in my family, a lot of mental health issues. And I lost a sister to it years ago. She was schizophrenic. So, I mean, I just don't want that person running the country. But no political, Bob, no political. But I do think that people, if they have a voice and they have an audience, and they can be someone that has a YouTube audience that's a political narrative that goes on MSNBC, Fox, CNN, people that go on both, people that have a lot to say that are sincere about it. And yes, they want their YouTube following to be millions. And I'm thinking about, I have a friend, Dave Rubin, and then you look at someone like Ben Shapiro, and then you go, wait a minute. And then there's Larry Elder, and they go, wait a minute, do I agree? I don't understand. I don't want to get upset before I go to bed. I want history to somehow prove things positive. But I do have a problem when, a lot of people had problems with the first Imagine video when all of the stars, or I don't like the word celebrities because doesn't mean you do anything, but
more well-known faces here in La La Land.
Right. But these were actors and actresses, and they, imagine all the people, And Jim Norton had a good line. He said, that video got me really choked up because right after I saw it, I hung myself.
Man, let me tell you something. Jim is one of my boys. I like Jim. Well, he's not one of my boys. Let me stop lying. I like Jim. I think we know each other, and he's a very honest person. And I feel the same way sometimes when I'm like, when someone asks you to do something, let's do something for the world. And you're like, yeah, let me read this same script that everybody else is reading, and then we'll just put the montage together and da-da-da. Man, I'd much just rather hear from somebody in the hood. I'd rather hear from a school teacher. I'd rather hear from a nurse. I'd rather hear from a fireman. I'd rather hear from a policeman. I'd rather hear from the dude that's saying, you know what? Let me tell you why I don't fuck with Hollywood, but I will say this message because I do believe in the message. I think those people are like, yo, stop trying to shape the way we think by all these random ass celebrities, whether we know them or not. Coming off as sincere, but coming off as fake at the same time.
But some are sincere and some are wonderful, and they are putting out. Some of them will put out the message, no matter how cynical you want to get. If you look at, Ben Stiller's feed, you go, wow, he tweeted what I'm thinking, or not, people, it is a free country, but it certainly doesn't feel free now because we're all paying for it right now.
Right.
I got to quote that. That was something.
I say all the time that I don't think everybody. I think one thing that sucks about social media is that we can hear everybody's thoughts. Everybody's taking thought and posting it, and a lot of people shouldn't. I know we the land of the free, but take your phone and chop off your thumbs. You should not be putting your thoughts in the world.
1,000,000%, because people they look for the quotes and the belief system that they need.
Right.
That calms them down, that soothes them, whether it be, against the left or against the right, and we've got extremists all over the place. And it'd be nice and you need extremists because that moves history forward and it's the nature of humanity. But it would be nice to sit down at a table and make some change.
Yeah, absolutely.
And in a healthy way. And anybody that preaches positiveness, even if it's a good policeman that's been shot and won't shoot someone, I'd like to hear from that person, or the person that had their house broken into because of the color of their skin and shot, killed. I want to hear from people that are coming from a good place on how we can fix things, because we need civil change.
We definitely need civil change. There's this video, Santa Clarita, where the police officer is holding an AR-15 at 3 black kids. There's the 3 black kids were being attacked by a homeless dude with a knife at a bus stop, and everybody saw it, and everybody started calling the police. And the manager of this Buffalo Wild Wings called the police because she saw everybody was like, holy shit. And when the police showed up, of course, the homeless man had, run off. But they had the guns on the 3 black kids who were the victims. And this one dude had an AR-15. I mean, he looked so serious, Bob. He was just pointing it. And he kept doing this at people like, hey, you're distracting me. Hey, but everybody could see not only were they kids in shorts and a T-shirt, so you could clearly see they didn't have any weapons. Why were you so serious or hell-bent on, I need to focus my AR-15 at these 3 kids? There are 8 cops out there. Guns are drawn, but this one dude had the damn G.I. Joe freaking Green Man gun. Remember the Green Army men back in the day? Had that gun.
Yeah.
And you know what I want? I want in the moment when it's all done, when it's all said and done, I want somebody to say, excuse me, sir, hi, what were you thinking? What were you thinking in that moment?
I want the kids apologize too. I want the kids, because they're going to have PTSD the rest of their lives.
Absolutely. But
we also don't know the backstory and everything, because it's possible that officer ate those buffalo wings, and it was either hold a gun or fart your brains out. So,
but you know why I think that is important? I think when those officers get to do that, and then they go back in their police cars and they drive away, and you never hear from them again, they're never held accountable because everybody is speaking for them. Everybody, from the police unions to the police chief to the whatever. You never hear from that individual to say, what were you thinking? So if he's in front of a microphone and he's like, well, I thought they were a threat, and then somebody says, at what part did you think they were a threat? When the managers and people were saying, we called you and we told you they're not the guys, why couldn't you listen to us when we're the ones that called you and in the first place? Why did you answer that question?
Well,
and the more you hear people,
it's profiling. I mean, it is clearly profiling, and every court of law now is on video. Every court of law now, there's no due process. It's Twitter and it's articles. And, if it was possible for the public, for the PTSD for the kids, one of the parents could have sued this officer if that was possible, if they could afford to do that, or even just make a case with a public lawyer, with a public defender. The parents could have said, you harmed my child mentally with this experience. So that's actually, I'm trying to get to how can we stop this from happening, because I do think I can't help but try to be positive on humanity, that the world this is not the end of days.
Right.
And that the change, I mean, Dave Chappelle said it at the end of that wonderful special.
846.
He said, you got to listen this time, otherwise it's going to be rat-a-tat-tat. And some people said, wait a minute, is that a threat? And he's basically saying, no, it's a fact.
Right.
Because
it's not a threat, it's a fact. Yeah.
We don't want that. We don't want that. The world doesn't want that. People don't want to come out of their different places with guns. Right. I mean, I worry about the election. I worry if some side, if Trump doesn't win, are people going to come out and want to shoot people? Or vice versa.
Vice versa, bro. People so fed up.
It's equal pain, and people are, I'm exhausted from it. I've put more into these 3 years of watching hatred spewed on TV by an orange tumbleweed. And I can't take the hate, even if there's something valid in some of the things he wants to do, and there have to be some things that everybody would agree with. Right. But it's not political. It's just not being a cheerleader for hate.
Right. It cannot be wrapped in your authentic feelings of hate, power, and control, and just straight misleading people for your own personal gain. One thing I will say about Trump is that the marketing part of him knows that every time he's on TV, if he says the exact same thing, they have no choice but to play the exact same thing. So the people who love him are hearing the exact same message. So if he doesn't waver from that message or change, there's no wrong anywhere because it hasn't been proven he's wrong. We can put him next to him saying, oh, you said this yesterday, you said that yesterday, but you better believe.
You said this an hour ago.
And
then you tweeted this,
But you better believe that the footage that they show that for people that love him are only going to see the same message. They're not going to see the comparison, or they'll think that comparison video and audio is altered because they've known him to say the same thing from the jump.
Or they think, hey, I do that all day long. I'll say something. I might be wrong. I might mispronounce something. Well, we see Biden doing that. You can get sound bites on everybody saying the wrong thing.
I say Yosemites all the time. I said it first.
Too.
I said it first.
I'm Yosematic. I'm anti-Yosemite. But I think that also giving him so much airtime on every other outlet that doesn't support him as much as his base is also a lot of power. It's a lot of airtime, and he knows how to work that, even if he's off road talking about God knows what, You know
what I do like about this Joe Biden campaign, which I think he learned from the Hillary Clinton campaign? The more you talk, the more you fuck up. And the more potential for you to fuck up. And there were times when Hillary would continue. She shot herself in the foot with the Barack election. She shot herself in the foot a million times with going against Trump. And
she just shouldn't have deleted those emails, and we might have a different world.
You know what I mean? She should have just turned over the server. But with Joe Biden, people know, and I can admit this. I wish we had somebody just a little bit more there mentally, because he does have spurts of just spazzing the fuck out, and who knows what he's thinking in those moments.
He always talked like Jimmy Stewart. It was always wah, 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 wah. But this is something.
Some people have to educate themselves in knowing the difference between him stuttering and trying to get over that mental block that he has. I hope I'm not stuttering and sounding it, because he sometimes just can't even get his words out, and it just looks like, oh shit, he's old and don't know what the fuck he's talking about. Really, I do believe that he has a stuttering problem. He's been consistently talking like that since I've been alive.
Since he's 40, if you look at clips. But the problem we have is I wish it was him 6 years ago, 8 years ago, but it's not. The key is surround yourself with amazing people. And that's yet to be seen. And I have faith that he will.
Yes.
And I just don't, the only thing I take real issue with, besides everything, is to stop the mail, to not pay overtime for postal workers, and half of them are veterans. It's like, and that's happened. That has actually, that was a put into law thing this past month, and nobody, I mean, people are coming out against it. People for the American way.
Trump would be like, Trump would be like, we have to send the VA a check. We have to take care of our veterans. And then the policy that's passed is cut the check. I mean, don't cut the check. I never sent the fundraiser check that I said I was going to send. And when it comes to the actual policies that we put in place, none of them have anything to do with the veterans. And people only hear the news clip, just like that bogus ass executive order press conference he gave when he was like, and we're going to have executive orders since the Democrats won't move on anything, where we're going to cover pre-existing conditions for your health care. Executive order. And everybody was like,
that's Obamacare. He's just trying to take the branding off. He doesn't like it being called that, because he's all about branding.
He's all about gold, everything gold. If he could put, he's all about that,
and yet I know people that support him. Yeah. And I haven't lost them as friends. We talk about it. We try to have a civil discourse. I don't feel that way. But I understand their concerns, and people that have been diehard Republicans for a long time. Diehard is something that won't happen to Trump.
No.
He will not die hard.
No.
I don't wish any harm on him. I don't think.
I just want him to leave. I just want him to leave, because even if you have the dopest policies, to me, it can't be wrapped in either overt racism or this subliminal dog whistle racism. Let me tell you an example of what black people would think is racist. Okay. So when you give a speech about the suburbs and you say, and they're going to put low income housing in your suburbs, they're going to take away your suburbs, they're going to move next to you, and then they're going to put Cory Booker in charge of it. Well, to me, even if we don't know who they are, but we do, you know what I mean? When you tag it with, and they're going to put Cory Booker in charge of that program, well, he's a black dude. So to me, it went from just like a small dog whistle to, I'm just throwing this shit out there and saying the black people going to invade your suburban life, and they're probably going to like move next to you, open up crack houses, rape your wives while you go to work. To me, bro, that's overt racism. You don't have to say that last part that I just said, but the minute you say, and we're going to put Cory Booker in charge of it, that is saying the blacks are coming. And
but
to me,
if
that's
you know
racism.
Cory Booker and you watch how he speaks, you realize that
He
his
ain't
heart's
black.
his
No, I'm
heart's
just
full of love, right?
He ain't black. No, but
his heart is good, you know. And people,
yes, absolutely.
Where he's coming from, and I'm not a giant fan of socialism. I'm a giant fan of everybody being taken care of by your country.
I think people get scared of socialism, the word. When I haven't heard anybody, the only thing I've heard close to socialism is, hey, can't we just all have like dope ass healthcare and it costs us nothing because we make trillions and trillions and trillions of dollars. Like when we print up $1 trillion in on a Thursday just because we passed a law and we mail that out and we give it to the Ruth Chris Steakhouse and we give it to the 24-hour fitness chain and we give it to the Boeing, aircraft company, and then we give it to small businesses. But my point is, we decided that on a Wednesday. They passed it. We've cut in the check, and hopefully you'll start seeing stimulus checks a week from now. If we can come up with $1 trillion, $2 trillion, and we haven't done that shit in the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, the early 2000s, where is all this money, and why can't we have free health care if free health care might only cost $300 billion?
And why can't we put actual professionals at work, no matter what their race, into neighborhoods that need it the most, where people don't have good parenting, where there's meth and where there's guns, and it's dangerous. But why can't we do what we've been touting, which never really happens, which is send in psychological help, send in guidance help, and it's dangerous. So, I mean, it's confusing. Do you send in a teacher or a guidance counselor wearing a bulletproof vest? I say yes. I say
San Francisco is trying it. San Francisco is trying to now send, they just passed something, their mayor just passed something where if it is a nonviolent crime and police don't need to be involved, then they're going to send a more trained professional in the field of healthcare, mental health, social work, whatever. Because sometimes I think asking a police officer to come into a situation and the man is just upset because he lost his job, he may cuss a police officer out only because you show up with a gun and you see a white guy and he's telling you to calm the fuck down, and that's how he starts the conversation. Okay, first of all, sir, calm the fuck down. Well, now you just pissed me off even more, and I'm not calming down.
It's all fear. It's all based on fear. Mm-hmm. But if there are people that are so unfortunately whacked out from being on a drug, and maybe they have a firearm, and then you go and send a guidance counselor in, pre-police, and then they get hurt. That's it's a tough situation.
Slippery slope,
we won't know till we try it.
It's just like COVID. So say with COVID, the governor of Georgia wants the kids to go back to school. We all saw the pic of the crowded high school, and then and now it's been a week and they keep testing, and 9 people and a couple of teachers now have COVID, and now they shut the school again.
Right.
You don't know until you try, and even though they knew in the situation that we're talking about with somebody going on a mental health run, should I be armed? Should I not be armed? The minute one of these people who are not armed go in and just try to say, sir, now this all stems from your childhood, and they get shot in the
I
head,
think
then
you-
we're gonna
I
know.
think
Then we're gonna know. Oh, that shit didn't
It's-
work. We need a cop to go there
Sir,
with.
I think you need to do a better grade of meth.
Yes, sir. The reason you're on drugs and the reason your wife stabbed you is because you're holding your kid by the neck.
Now
For
give me a
no reason.
hug. Let me hug you.
Let me hug you. We're gonna make this all better. You never know. You gotta try stuff, bro. You gotta.
Well,
try
this
stuff.
this is impossible, and yet we're going to get there because with time, many things happen, and I'd like to think that the pressure cooker calms down because we right now are in a perfect storm.
Right.
You know, it started with already hate in this country forever,
Mm-hmm.
and you know, the South against the North, and people on extremes, and the civil rights of hatred on both sides, which may never go away, but other countries have gotten through it. We're a new country. We don't have that same unrest, even though it exists in England.
Right.
We don't have it, you know. And I say we because I feel like a citizen of the earth, not a citizen just of this country. And I love this country, and I'm not happy or proud of where it's going, but I could be, and I want to be, and I support it. So we need to,
Mm-hmm.
you know, you can't even say all you need is love, like the Beatles.
I was just going to say that.
All the people would go, oh yeah, right. Okay.
And they would get
whatever.
their ass stomped out by the people who were like, and guns, and we need private VIP clubs. That's all the world to me, Bob, is about. It's about access to a different space that other people don't have access to. And how do you get access to that space? You got to have a hookup. You got to have power. You got to have connections to be like, yo, I don't care if I have to cheat or, you know, make straight A's all my life and or bully my way and or force my way. There's a better way of living. How do I separate myself from those people? And it's not black, it's not white. It's mostly it's poor people, you know, it's an economic thing. But how do I win and keep that club so small where it makes me feel special and different for figuring it out, and it makes me tell all those other people, hey, well, why don't you get a job? Or hey, why don't you? And these people don't care how they got in that circle. You could be grandfathered in, you could be Ivanka, you could be Eric, you can be all these people, but they'll still look at people who are busting their ass saying, yo, but you know, you're different from us. We worked hard. I'll never forget Trump saying, you know, I had it rough growing up. My father gave me $1 million to start my first company, and you know, and I had to build it. And he saw nothing wrong with that. But the majority of people are saying, damn, I wish I had somebody giving me $1 million at go. You know what I mean?
Of course. But I think that the key with him is, and I've said this before on my podcast, and I just talked about it with friends, is the guy wants to be loved clearly. And the guy is not universally loved clearly. And I can't help but think his father didn't show him love.
Right.
And
he definitely has mental
really
issues.
Does. In most cases, I had a father who loved me and a mother who loved me. How about you?
Yeah, absolutely. Both.
That's
when I found my father at 30.
That's why you and I are drawn. Go ahead.
Yeah. No, I said when I found my father at 30, I found out he loved me. No, just kidding. I had a dope father. My father and my mother weren't together, but my father came over every weekend. Everybody lived in the same city. He influences me to this day. We talk regularly, and I think it does make a difference.
I got divorced from my first wife. I've been married now for 4 years to my present wife, and she's a present. And my previous wife, we got divorced 24 years ago, and we have 3 beautiful daughters. And it was the same thing, you know, it'd be every other week, or if I was working, she would take the brunt of it, and I'd be like she'd be with them for 2 weeks because I'd be filming something or something. But I was a very active father, still am, and I know my kids are great because I know I'm a good dad because they're so great.
Right.
But loving your kid, building them up, and I don't think this Trump guy had that. I just don't think he had any of that, and you can tell. I feel bad for Barron. I feel bad for that guy.
Because his dad ain't around. His dad ain't playing with him. His dad ain't asking him. His dad looks into a room and says, "Everything good, champ? You good? Okay." And he keeps it moving.
Well, that's being kind. I think he probably does do that, but
I think he does that much.
But I don't even think he says to him, "Bring me a 9-iron," and he could when they're out golfing.
The thing that rich people don't realize, wealthy people don't realize, or super busy people don't realize, you can bust your ass to provide a better life for your family, but if you never spend time with them or encourage them, reward them, champion them, just tell them, hey, let's do this together. Hey, let's go change a tire together. Let's go wash the car together. Let's do something together because let's
watch this incredibly crappy show together.
Yeah, let's do something where we're spending time together where they can have a memory. Hey man, I remember my dad. We used to watch the Jeffersons together. We used to watch All in the Family together. That was our thing. Like people reach back to this day as we get the age that we are. We look back and we say, I used to love doing this with my mom. I used to love doing this with my dad. All that shit matters, bro. Because when that's absent,
so much.
When that's absent, you're a jerk when you're grown. You're a jerk. You're an insecure jerk, and you probably have a little dick. And I'm just throwing that out there.
You're not talking to me specifically.
No. I mean, I assume you have a little dick. No, I'm just kidding.
my dick is well, let me show it to you. Hold on.
Now we about to go up to another level.
From Blazing Saddles, which can't be made today. Let me just whip this thing out.
Let me ask you something. About comic life. Let's switch to comedy. Let me ask you something that we like to do on Understand This. Comics are hard to love. You know, I feel like
not for me.
This is what I mean by this. I feel like it is hard to be in a relationship with a stand-up comedian. Where do you feel? Well, what's your take on that? Because I know a lot of women don't understand the struggle. They don't understand the grind. A lot of men don't want women who are comedians to be around a whole bunch of dudes in clubs all the time, chasing a dream, traveling with these dudes, doing their little feature act or headlining. And I realized that comics, male, female, have tough times maintaining. They fall in love easy, but maintaining a relationship is difficult. What's your take on that, bro?
I agree.
Are we hard to love? Are we a hard person to get and understand?
No, but we don't stop. Our brain doesn't stop. And that's why in some ways this quarantine has been healthy. And my wife and I spent 4 months together. And it was like Beauty and the Beast. She was trapped in my world. But now she's back with her family in Chicago, and it's difficult. We have a viewpoint that's hard to reckon with because we can be taught, we can learn, you can give me facts and evidence, but otherwise I watch something and my emotion is visceral and I don't stop. I mean, if somebody throws one rock at me, I throw 10,000 back. I mean, that comes from our childhood of how messed up you were as a kid. And so I can retaliation from a comedian is not something you want unless it's Gilbert Gottfried, in which case nobody gets hurt.
Right.
But actors have the same problem. When they're all shooting a movie for 3 years and it's international waters, they go and get connected with somebody, and they could be in a relationship, and it's dangerous. You really have to be very strong to your commitment to the person that you're with. So, Bob, I don't know. You're in a relationship, correct?
Yeah, I'm married. This is my second marriage.
But that's not the question. Yes. Outside of your wife, are you in a relationship?
No. I have learned my lesson that. And this is real talk. I have learned my lesson. The getting caught part is not worth seeing the face of the person that loves you crushed and it just all that sneaking around, bro.
I did it one time. It's not something you do.
I was getting ready to ask you, keep it real with me. Keep it real with me. How old were you when you were doing Full House?
I was 30 to 38 years old.
Those are that's my SNL age. Let me tell you something, bro. It was women. When I tell you, a whole binder full of women, like my Mitt, what's his name? Mitt Romney, looking for women.
Right.
Bro, I was just, it wasn't, I loved dating. I loved dating because for me, a comic's mind was, let me go do my show. After I do my show, let me hear my accolades. After my accolades, let me go chill, relax with the things I like to do. And it was hard for me to get out of that mindset as a comic because it was just a life. You're in the streets so much and just going from club to club, city to city. But then it was hard for me to get out of that mindset and then listen to one woman tell me I didn't clean up something or take out the trash or what did you do this chore, that chore, or pay this bill. And I was just like, why am I listening to this one person?
It
getting on my
becomes an
nerves.
authority figure. It
Yes.
becomes your mom, the principal, the nun, whoever told you not to do something.
Somebody's
And it's
caging you. You know what I mean? That's how I
Yeah.
felt. So my question to you was, did you have a lot of girls? Did you have a lot of hoes? Did you have a lot of women dating?
Here's the thing. I would never call anybody a hoe.
I would.
Because
I'm a hoe. I was a hoe.
That's money, right? I think I was borderline hoe, but I never was the aggressor. I was never.
You weren't the aggressor hoe.
I'm not a predator. People had to throw themselves at me. And one time a woman actually did on a trampoline and broke my neck. So I was in traction. But I was at a Cirque du Soleil show and she threw herself at me. But the truth of it is, I was always faithful until when I hit 40 and our marriage started to not be as good. And I had 3 little girls, which makes it very tragic. And I'm not proud, I think, of my actions. I think what you need to do is go to your partner and say, we got problems, let's work on them for real. But most people go and say that after they've already got something going with someone else. And they just come and say, I don't think it's working out. And then they lie. And it was one incident. It wasn't like a thing. But once I hit 42, I was single again. And then I had a girlfriend who was, I picked up where I left off. She was 20 years younger than me. So she was like 22. And that's really young. And I was really 42. But I kept, John Stamos and I had a vow to keep that age separation in all our relationships.
My boy just told me, he said, what'd you say about John?
I saw John Stamos at a strip club one time.
I went with John to a strip club once.
He walked in like y'all walked onto the set of Full House. Like the light changed, the music cue came in. He walked in famous.
I got a story for you. You're gonna love it.
Okay.
Because one night John said, I know this guy at this club and it's right here it's on the west side of LA and it's full nude but no alcohol. And so John said, I got this. We're all hooked up. It was Dave Coulier, John, and me. So, what are we doing? What the hell are we doing? I'm divorced a few years. I'm single. I was single a lot and I would be alone. I would just do my work and then I'd have a relationship. So there wasn't a lot of just going for it. I wasn't a predator guy. I didn't do a lot of one night things. I just would have a 2-year relationship, a 1-year relationship with about 7 or 8 people over 20 years. So
let me interrupt your story really quick. Let me say this and make this distinction. If you date a lot and you like people and they like you back and y'all are doing what you do, it's not a predator situation.
Right.
It's just that you like to hunt and there are people who like to be caught and that's your lifestyle and it's all above board. That's the only thing I want to say because
But I'm a romantic, so I was a hunter with flowers.
Me too.
I really like you. Here's some flowers.
Oh man.
Cut to a slip and slide. Cut to a kiddie pool filled with hot oil.
Hey.
But what happened was John said, I got this strip club. It's going to be great. Let's go. And so we all go. And I'm in a bad mood because I don't want to be called out in a strip club. I'm not in the mood. It'll travel. And I ended up putting it in a book I wrote called Dirty Daddy. But I would change that name today because the world's different.
All right.
And we walk in and we sit down. and the lights changed just like you were saying. Just
He
like
was there. This is so dope.
Same story, man.
Go,
I just
bro.
missed you. I didn't see you that night.
Oh, no, you would have, because over the mic, the guy that's the announcer goes, "Ladies and gentlemen, we have special guests in the house.
Oh my God.
Tonight we have John Stamos, Bob Saget, and Dave Coulier. It's a full house." And then full mood. And I'm going like, "John, you said this wasn't going to happen." He goes, "Hey, what can I do? I don't know. You know."
I don't know.
Man, titties happen, man. Hey, what can we do?
And we got out of there because it's not like at that moment.
Oh, y'all didn't stay long?
Well, I got long enough, and then we left. You know, and it's
And we
funny
just
'cause
found our soundbite.
every stripper that on the road, if you're playing Vegas, you wind up at the Olympic Gardens or one of those places. I don't anymore, but back in the day, I did.
Back in the day.
My buddies that I was doing stand up with or whatever, and it's never failed. Where if ever a lady stripper would come up to me, she would say, "You were my father growing up."
Absolutely. I was
And
just
I
about to
went,
say that.
"Wow, aren't you cold?
Can I get you a sweater?
Can I do anything? Can I just put a jumpsuit on you? I'm feeling awkward."
Right. That to go into a strip club, bro, and the girls are, 19 to now they 19 to 33. But to go into a strip club and have a girl and you're there for a certain mood, certain mindset, and to have the girl say, "Oh, you were like my TV dad." I'm limp after that. Literally.
Yeah,
I'm limp mentally.
I am. Well, I am more than ever because I have 3 daughters that are 30, 31, and 27. So I can't even mentally go there anymore because I can't. I mean, when you're younger, if you're 40 and she's 30, or you never had it. I had one girlfriend since high school when I was 17, and I ended up marrying her when I was 26. So I really didn't, there was no field playing, I didn't go out and date a lot. I tried a couple times and I always screwed it up. So by the time I'm in my 30s and fame hit, I was just working all the time and going home and trying to be a good husband and parent. And then, things get screwed up and it didn't work. Maybe I could have fixed it. Maybe she could have done some stuff. I don't know. I have regrets, but I did it my way.
Right.
But in retrospect, I wouldn't have the wife I have now, who I adore. And my ex and her get along great. It's like that's the good things that can happen.
I feel like a lot of people have to go through stuff. Period. And I think
you have to.
I think people just don't understand the importance of life experience, because if you don't have enough of it before you go into a marriage, you're going to start craving it once you're in the marriage, of wanting to experience other things. And then you're not supposed to, because either you need permission to stay out later than normal, or you need permission to hang out with a couple of buddies that your wife don't know, but you've known these guys since high school, and who cares if you haven't ever brought their name up in the last 5 years? They're in town now, and I want to hang out with them. There's so much you have to explain and do once you're married that it's like that kettle pot that's about to start whistling and boiling over when you get frustrated with somebody that's just not letting you live. And how dumb is it for somebody to say,
you have to let them live.
Yeah, how dumb is it to have somebody who you live with and in your life and that you love say, "Well, you should have did all that living before we got married"? I think that is the dumbest response that I think a guy can say, a woman can say, and people say it all the time. You're married
couldn't say
now.
it to me. My ex couldn't say it to me, my ex-wife, because I was 17 when I started dating her. So I don't know what I was supposed to do at 15.
Right.
But I picked up where I left off, which is true of a lot of people I know that get divorced, which is incredibly sad, especially when there's kids.
Right.
It's probably one of the hardest things.
Painful. Hardest thing on the planet to do. For the male psyche and the female psyche to realize you failed at something. It could have been saved if you dropped your ego a little bit, or if you just said certain words, or if you gave it time. Maybe.
But you don't even know yourself at 26 when I got married, and that's not a defense. It's just a fact.
Yeah. The life experience part is relevant and important. There are some women who are just meant to get married early and they want to stay with the same person for the rest of their lives. There are very few small percentage of the population of men who want to do that, but there are success stories. There are people who are like, oh yeah, I've known her since high school and we've been together for 80 years. That's awesome.
My parents were like that, and they were together 65 years. And my dad was 7 years older than my mom, and everybody was like, and he met her when she was 16.
He was 7 years older?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I think that's a good age difference. I actually think 7 is a good age difference.
I like to go another 13 older. You know, I like to have that because it gives me more time to think.
Bob, so right now, what's the age difference between you and your wife?
20 years.
So
And somebody I just read online, because everything is just lies. I read that we're 33 years different or something, but we're 20 years different. 22, I guess.
So she's like 40 something.
41.
Hot, right?
She's very pretty.
Very pretty
and
lady.
She's very smart and very strong. Incredibly strong. How about your wife? Same.
My wife said some stuff to me literally last night, that it calmed me down so quickly. I think the thing what's dope about marriage is if you find the right partner, don't care what the hell the age difference is. If that woman or that man can say something to put you back in that loving, authentic self that they married, or instead of make shit worse, they say something that's just so calming. Because I was upset about career. I was upset about something. And she said, you know what? At the end of the day, you're so rich. Look at your family. Look at your house. Look at
100%.
Look at your badass wife. And I don't stress you. And whatever you're stressed about, you're not going to feel this way tomorrow. You're just feeling this way in the moment. And at the end of the day, fuck it, Finesse. She doesn't curse, but she's like, and I was thinking about it, and I was like, babe, can we have sex? She said no. So, but I felt so dope, man, because it just took my mind from like, why is this? Why is that? And why did this person say this when they clearly mean that? And she said, and why does all that matter? And I was like, I don't know. And when she explained to me why it shouldn't matter, I felt better about that person who I felt like slighted me. I was like, oh, maybe they're going through some shit. Or, oh, maybe they, you know what I mean? And it brought me back to, it's not about me. Count my blessings and realize what we got here is working. So no matter what you face out there, it's not as important. If shit was fucked up in here and shit was fucked up out there, then you got problems.
Are you able to do the same thing with her and calm her down? Does she get upset as well? I'm sure she does.
She gets upset. Her dad is an entertainer. Her dad is a famous R&B artist, always gone, always on the road. She gets the entertainers thinking, the mentality, the schedule, and it's almost like she's built this thing up in her where I know my wife is different from other women that I've dated who was like, why you always gone? Why you always feel the need? You got to be here. You got to be there. You got to, because at some point in our career, we're like, we can't miss. We got to be there. What if so-and-so walks in? What if Richard Pryor walks into the Comedy Store and he asks me to be in his movie, Critical Condition? That they don't understand that.
He didn't know I was going to be in it. I got a casting director, Margie Simpkin, put me in that movie.
But bro,
it was auditioning.
Isn't that the other half of how we get work relationships?
Sometimes it is. Yes,
it is.
Yes.
There's no way you would have probably been on my podcast unless I saw you at work and we're in the streets and we bond and we say, hey, remember how dope just life was before COVID? And don't we get along? And aren't we just funny in the moment?
You know what I mean? Hug you.
Yeah,
I needed
it's like
to hug you. That's what's fucked up.
You see people and you're just like, bro, you know what? I have probably been in your life for an entire 3 or 4 days out of your entire life. We've probably crossed paths, but every time we've been in front of each other, it was such a good feeling of, that's a good guy. Yeah, that is a good guy. Hey, Bob, you want to do my podcast? Yeah. You want to do mine? Yeah. And it's that simple.
Yeah.
Two good guys. You remember the good times. You instantly remember, oh, yeah, and that person's funny. And it's that simple.
Well, you know what it is that drew me to you immediately is that it's the thought that you can wake up positive in the morning. And that's what I try to do. Or I process things while I'm sleeping, and sometimes I can sleep, I can't sleep. But in any case, I'm trying to move forward in a positive way and understand things and trying to bring some goodness and happiness and love to the people I care about. You know, if you ever have an argument with your wife at night, you want the next day to be the do-over. You know, why did we get like that? That's too bad. Okay.
Do you feel like you have the cheat codes now from the first experience you went through with your first wife to now? Or do you just feel like, hey, I've reached an age and a point in my life where I think I get it? Or is it a combination of both?
I still mess up. I can be a volatile guy. You know, I can be volatile in that I'm quick to anger. When I see injustice, I get really, I can get really upset. And that doesn't help, because then you're not open to listening to, can't we just not talk about this now and wait till you calm down? But I get, you know, unjust things that are unjust and lies. I don't do well with lying. My wife is not a liar. She's very upfront, honest. And she's got a good rudder, you know, she's got a great heart, and I'm really lucky, except she's away, but I think she needed a break.
She needed a break from you. She needed a break, probably need a break from the house. My wife doesn't want me to travel that much at all. Like, I'm like, yeah, I got to go to Atlanta, see my mom. And she's like, FaceTime. And I'm like, babe, I got to see her. You know what I mean?
That's my wife just did. She said, I have a niece. She has a niece. I have a niece who's 5 months old, and she never met her. And so she went safely, and she's an influencer. So my wife got, you know, United Airlines to take her on a tour. She got to make a little production video about it and showed the HEPA filter under the plane.
Bro, I thought you was about to say that your niece was an influencer. I was like, already?
Yes.
Like, they don't even wait no more, bro.
5 months old, she has got the best account. She's 1 million followers.
And she got like more followers than me. Man.
She's killing TikTok. She's very stressed about the new buyout. I don't know what'll happen with TikTok. It's so important. You know what I like about it? It does, if it's not going political, it does calm you down. It does provide entertainment.
What, TikTok?
Yeah. I mean,
bro, I'm not a TikToker, but I do have a page. And I wasn't even a social media guy. You know, when I was on SNL, we had heard a pitch, and this was back in like 2007. We had heard a pitch that Twitter was coming. Like, they came to us and asked us to like help us get the word out. Hey, Twitter is coming. And we were like, why on earth would we tell anybody what we're doing? Like, why would we literally tell some people, yeah, I'm about to go to the store, I'm about to go to the club. Like, why would we do that? And it was all about privacy. It was all about like walking into a room. And back then I used to say, had I done Twitter the right way, to walk into a room and nobody felt any kind of way, that you pulled out your phone and started recording to say that, hey, Leonardo DiCaprio, Eva Longoria, Derek Jeter, Finesse Mitchell, Kenan Thompson, and Lindsay Lohan are all in the club. Everybody's looking across from each other in their booth. It's a Thursday night in New York City. It's 1 o'clock in the morning. And people have on baseball hats. So everybody else who's partying don't really know who's who unless they're up in your face. But you would have been the most uncool person and never been invited to any private party or never dope function ever again because you got your phone out. It just wasn't cool back then.
And it's still rude. It's still very rude.
It is. Now when we go to these same parties, not only do we have our phone out, but we never look up. We're always just looking. We at the same party, but now we just.
I try not to do that. Like right now, I'm looking at my thing just to know what I'm doing for you. You know, that's all.
Right. You know what I mean?
So I got the phone. So you have your backup audio. You know,
make sure the audio does not go out. I definitely
Can't have
want that
the audio
on.
go out. This is important.
Bob, it's hard not to be political, and it's hard not, like you said. I definitely get the same way. I see so much on social media now. We have something that we call Black Twitter, Black Instagram, where all we do is circulate videos of people getting fucked up by the police. Really, all we do is post these videos. And I started saying we have to share this same footage and tag white people, tag Asian people, we have to get more people involved to know that we're not crying wolf. You want to keep saying that someone is kneeling because they're disrespecting the flag or they don't like their country, and they're just trying to find a peaceful way to say, hey man, we getting fucked up in the streets. And this has been going on since fucking slavery, but it's not even the 60s anymore. We're talking about, damn, in 2020, and that's what I like about this new TikTok and Instagram posting, we ain't standing for this shit, Generation Z 21-year-old. Bro, they really not having it. So when they mobilize and they take to the streets, it's a little bit more organized than what used to happen because of social media. But it's so diverse now because people are actually seeing the footage of holy shit. How long that's been going on? And black people been saying forever. It's great that you know Finesse Mitchell. But if you don't know my cousin who just want to go, and be the cashier at Target, dude, he just want to work at Six Flags. But on his way to the crib, he got yanked out of his car because he didn't, pull his license out the right way. And the dude was like, oh, you got an attitude?
That's just insanity. That's clearly insanity.
We try to tell people, hey man, no matter how we approach it, our moms give us the speech, keep your hands on the steering wheel, or hey, just say yes sir, no sir. No matter how you approach it, if it still ends up with you having an AR-15 pointed at you, or somebody like literally just dominates you because they're in the power position because they have a weapon and they're the police, we don't know what else to do. We don't know what else to do. So now we're sharing videos. More people are saying, yo, that's fucked up. This shit got to change. And now here we are. And I hate that a lot of it is getting tarnished by just the regular looters and criminals and people who
that's the thing. That's the thing. That is upsetting. That's what's hurting all of the movement and the belief system and the messages that need to get out is that people are destroying property and hurting people and dragging people through the street, and that's as extreme and wrong as the reverse of that.
Right.
It's just wrong. But the idea of peaceful demonstration to get your point across, it's a shame it gets tarnished by the people that are just stealing and hurting. And that's not the majority, but
it ain't the majority. But I do believe that. I do believe, and that's why I say sometimes when it comes to Trump, he says one thing and he runs with it because he thinks that's the entire thing, and it's not the entire thing. But there is definitely footage of people looting and whooping people's ass and hitting people's and just doing criminal shit. And there's definitely footage of Antifa and whoever the fuck Antifa is with spray painting shit and destroying shit because they have the same message, but they want to go about it differently. You know what I mean?
They're wrong.
They're wrong. But they're wrong. You know what I mean? And so when they try to attach themselves and show up at a rally at the peaceful movement, and all of a sudden you get the soccer mom wall people fucked up who just out there in their yellow T-shirts saying we're protecting the Black Lives Matter people who are all in the park chanting Black Lives Matter. When those people merge, when everybody comes together, it fucks up everything because there are a lot of people there with ill intentions, bad intentions, or they just want to cause destruction, chaos.
It's the same thing in white America where people just want to have their gun, but they're not out. They're not the extremists that are fascists and neo-Nazis and stringing people up and killing people. But you add some of those people to the equation, and hopefully we don't have to. Hopefully we can get through this next year.
Right. That's why it's important to have somebody in the center that says, I hear both sides. And those people that's way over there on the far left and the far right, look, man, we want to outnumber you guys, especially if you have violence attached to your agenda.
Well, if you have violence, you're breaking the law, no matter what side. And we
I
gotta
hate when people
protect-
act like, bro, that we like anti-police and we anti-guns and we anti. No, I fucking hate criminals. I'm not a criminal. And a lot of my friends aren't criminals. And we don't want to see fucked up shit no matter what color the person is. We want law to be the law. We just want excessive force or people who know they did some fucked up shit to be held accountable. Because when you keep doing fucked up shit and getting away with it, you're not going to change and it's not going to stop, and we're going to still get pissed off and then take to the streets. And
Finesse, I'd like to believe that this time, as painful as it is, and as much as has come out of it with injustices, even from both sides, but mainly from the pain of Black Lives Matter, the intention of it, which is equality, and is that we will hopefully have pushed a giant boulder up a mountain, and that this wasn't for naught, that we go back to what existed before 2020, because this was a lightning struck. We have, these comments coming from the White House, and these comments coming, and people are in quarantine, people are out of work, and people are,
a perfect storm of shittiness. I guarantee you, if there was no COVID, there would not be as many people in the streets.
I agree.
If everybody was going back, if everybody was at work, shit would be fucked up and people would be marching. And the George Floyd shit was so obvious that but the amount of time, Bob, that people hit the streets and they're still in the streets and they're still organizing, this couldn't have happened if COVID wasn't here. Because your ass cannot miss work. You know what I mean? So yeah man. I definitely want things to, I want things to be
a new
better.
peacefulness,
a new calmness. I want people. I don't know if you're a sports.
I can't take the stress. You can't either.
Nobody can.
No one can take this much negativity. So everybody owes it to themselves to be responsible and to get their message across, because it's their right. And be able, no matter what you believe, but justice and non-racism is a dream that we have to somehow, again, I look at, it exists in England, but it's just not the same as what we have here.
Right.
There's so many years of, I was 5 years old on a ferry boat with my dad in Virginia to Richmond, and there was segregated bathrooms. I didn't know what that meant. I don't get that. Kids don't get that. Kids just want to love, and they just want to play until they learn from a parent or from how they're treated that, the world sucks.
Right. Hey, let me tell you how to reach us today. Let me tell you how to reach us today. I need you to call that 818-814-6241. 814-6241. Yo, that's how you reach us. That's how you get through. Leave me a message. And we'll get back to you. I said, that's how you reach us. That's how you reach us. That's how you get through. Leave me a message. Hey, we'll get back to. Hey, we'll get back to you. Hey, we'll get back to. We're gonna get back to you. 818-814-6241.
You're the GOAT.
Remember when holding hands was first base?
Yeah, absolutely. What was first, Jeannie? What was first base when you were coming up? Do you remember what first base was?
Probably kissing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's not anymore.
Hey, go ahead.
Well, I think first base now is kissing downtown.
Bro, I gotta say this. I don't know why. First base now is kissing downtown. I just heard you. I didn't want to lose my train of thought, but it probably is now. Shit, people go so fast. Oh yeah,
that's nothing.
Yeah. Remember when, I don't know if you remember this, the Brett Kavanaugh hearings for his for his judicial confirmation, Supreme Court.
They were lovely.
Bro, and the whole, we used to sign it FFFFF. And I don't know if you remember that part. And everybody was like, yeah, what does that mean? What does that stand for? And anybody who grew up in the 70s, 80s, and maybe late 90s, every dude knew that was that whole find them, finger them, fuck them, forget them, some shit. But it was a F. You can Google FFFF, Urban Dictionary or whatever, and they'll tell you that a lot of dudes used to say that. We find them, French them, finger them, fuck them, forget them. You know, and that's just what it was. That's what it stood for. And he got on national television and he said, oh, well, we had a friend that stuttered. And so when sometimes we would just make fun of him and he would go, so that's how we signed. Wow. That's how we signed our letters when we would, you know, just, and I was like, nice. That's total bullshit. And if these old people in this room are not smart enough to fucking Google what FFFFF means, you know, I was so pissed, bro.
Understandably. I mean, you talk about how women have been treated over the years. I've had to change my tone in stuff that was innocent in my stand-up because I don't know, it was making, when I would make a misogynistic joke, it was a joke because I'm not like that.
Right.
But the words, if you take them and just read them, I don't want to read those words. Right. You know,
you read the transcript. When they're like, what is your transcript to go out and do your 1 hour? Can you send us so we can know the camera angles? And when you read it, you're like, oh.
Well, I'm not transcribable because when I do a special, I'll do 2 shows and there'll be so many differences. Editing is really crucial. I'll use mainly one show because the other one is just completely, nothing's in order. Nothing's said the same.
Right.
You know,
same way, bro.
Yeah.
Same way. I hate to be a cookie cutter. My first opening bit. Sometimes there is an opening bit or the way I say hello, but my 45 minutes, I couldn't do it the exact same way if you paid me $20 million to tell the jokes in one order.
For $20 million, I will follow that order.
You will follow the order?
I will have a teleprompter put in my glasses.
For 20 mil?
Oh, yeah.
I will say this to my comedy community and my white comic brothers out there, especially the A-listers like yourself, the big-time celebrities. Please be careful with what you say on stage now because people are ready to come after your ass. They are so ready to cancel the fuck out of you, bro. So
yeah,
just and it sucks that.
Well, that's true for everyone.
It's true for everyone, but there are a lot of people flying under the radar because that, you know, they build their fan base by saying one thing. But I do not believe a Bob Saget or a Dave Coulier or whoever, you know what I mean? If Billy Crystal got out there talking crazy, you know, at whatever age he's at right now, people would just be like, I can't believe it has to be true. You said how you felt, so it must be real and true, and therefore you feel that way, and therefore.
But he's a loving, caring man. Also, that's the interesting part of it. So yes, people are from when they grew up have had some conditioning that the wrong thing can be said. I mean, there was
Sam Kinison would not have survived in comedy.
Oh, of course not.
No,
just on women comments alone.
Yeah.
But he came from his own pain of having been a faith healer, having had that tent show where he would be a faith healer before he was a comedian. So that has a lot of contradictions in it, where you pretend you're preaching the gospel, but in fact, you're just raking in money.
How do you feel about that? If the joke is funny, if it's funny, you know, a lot of times we gauge it off of, did people laugh? Because when people don't laugh, then it's offensive.
I think if it hurts people, it's not correct. I did a thing that I loved so much, and it was for the Alley Coalition, which is you know, lesbian, gay, bisexual, transitioning, questioning, or queer. They changed it, I think, the night of my show, the Q. So I had to be very careful. And I had written a song specifically for it, a comedy song. And it was about meeting someone that was transitioning, and me having compassion for them But the fact that it didn't work out in the song, but we stayed friends, was deemed offensive. But I was just the opposite, right? Mm-hmm. So my messaging was, I really fell for this person, but ultimately it didn't work out. And that was the wrench that I threw in. And it started to get quiet. And I just stopped and said, I didn't intend for this to be taken this way.
It's a joke, people. It's a joke. I wrote it.
But it directly affects their deep feelings of what they're trying to overcome. Mm-hmm. And so I did it one time in London when I played London, and I got the loveliest review except for about that song. And and I wrote back to the reviewer, and I never did the song again. And even if I changed the words, and I did, it still came off pandering. The fact that I was even bringing it up and making a difference between people.
You got to cut the song totally out.
That's the key. That's the key. Because I truly, in my heart, believe we're all human. I don't see race. I don't see gender. I see it because people, you do have to be honest with what you're seeing. But I have so much
when it comes to treating people a certain way. That's what you're saying. You don't see. You don't differentiate. I hate trying to say that damn word.
Differentiate.
Thank you. You know, that's what you're saying. Man and woman, of course, I see you. Black, white, of course, I see you. The way I'm going to treat you, if you treat me good, if you treat me in a dope way, I'm going to treat you in a dope way. Everything's going to be cool. But to all of a sudden see you and treat you differently, oh, fuck, another woman. Why are we hiring these women? You know,
or call a person out, or just be cruel. And I think what saved me when I did that song was to stop and go, I didn't realize that this is something that could hurt anybody. And then I was able to have a lovely time because of it. And I remember I talked to Jay Farrow, who's a friend of mine, and he went through quite an experience this past year, which was pretty terrible, being profiled by the police. And we talked about it because he was on that show with me that night. And I talked to him about it, and he just started laughing. He went, Bob, you didn't know. You really were only coming from love. I just want to see the world change in a good way. And I hope when we are in person and get to hang out, not only do we hug, but we also get to celebrate that we've moved the needle some, and that we can sleep at night because we're not watching a bunch of yelling on the TV, and we don't go right to the news. I mean, I watched a movie, one of the worst movies I couldn't stop watching last night to get my mind off it. It was called Magdallion or something, the biggest shark that ever lived. And it was like a B movie, but the biggest shark, the prehistoric shark that just ate things. And and the Russians are the bad guys. And there's only 3 of them. There's no budget. So there's like, for one shot, they show 150 soldiers, but you only see 6 the whole movie.
Right.
And it's just a shark eating shit. And it just relaxed me. If that's what's relaxing me, this world's fucked up.
It's fucked up. I'm going to go watch The Meg tonight.
Oh, The Meg is comfortable. This was another version. The Meg is actually a laugh riot pleasure.
Yeah, absolutely.
This was called Magdalene, I think. You got to find it. And you know who bought it was Byron Allen's company. And nobody else wanted it. And he bought it. Yeah. And it did amazing.
Shout out to Byron Allen.
Right on the pulse of what people want. You got a big common enemy. Except the Russians are pretty bad in it. The 3 in the movie.
My people. When I tell you we have been blessed today, and I've been honored, and bro, this friendship is real. I cannot wait to think of a sitcom with you so that we can go.
I love you, Finesse.
Yeah, man, I love you too. Ladies and gentlemen.
You're gonna be on mine. I'm gonna get you soon.
Absolutely. The podcast is called Understand This. Bob Saget's podcast is called
Bob Saget's Here For You.
And he was here for us. We love you, bro. Thank you. Y'all rate, subscribe, review. You know how to stay in touch with us. And it was another dope episode, Genie.
As always, brother.
Understand
Lots
this.
of love. I love this. I love talking with you. I'll talk to you soon.
Talk soon. We out.